Who are the Trench Pilgrims, and what types of warbands do they deploy? That's today's video, and a faction I've long ignored coverage of. So welcome back to the trenches, and let's begin. The war rages against the minions of hell. Strange visions torment the faithful across the globe. Men and women touched by heaven are granted visions, and revelations are made by the messengers of God. Sisters of the holy orders are marked by stigmata and take up sword and cross as instructed by angels. Those who have transgressed seek to atone for their sins by taking as many followers of the devil with them to the afterlife as they can manage. So they come, the mad and the maimed, the God-touched and the guilt-ridden, all gathering around prophets and prophetesses, forming trench pilgrim processions, disorganized groups which arm themselves and follow the prophets of the Lord unto the front lines. They fight with unrivaled zeal, throwing themselves against the heretics and arming themselves with anything they can get their hands on. From the old muskets to scourges and Molotov cocktails, pilgrims are not officially sanctioned by the Holy See, but the Church still blesses the Crusades of the faithful. Thus the pilgrim processions are a common sight on the battlefield, often charging across no man's land in suicidal assaults against the heretics, directed by the visions of the prophets and prophetesses who lead them and urged on by the whips of castigators who are charged with instilling the fear of God in their troops. The bulk of the pilgrims are men and women with little military experience, but when they don the iron capret of a trench pilgrim, they can face even a demon from the deepest bulges of hell unflinchingly. Nor is death necessarily an end to their mission. Sometimes the seventh Metachrist will drop in and deem a fallen pilgrim worthy and bring them back as martyr penitents, warriors halfway between heaven and earth, able to fight once more and feel no pain from bullet or bayonet thrust. Rarer and more dangerous are the stigmatic nuns, holy trench pilgrim sisters, who manifest wounds to match those of the third Metachrist, whom the nuns venerate. They excel in close quarters combat, for each bleeding wound that they suffer makes them stronger, not weaker, as their devotion to the suffering, as their Lord once did, gives them strength and endurance not found on mere common mortals. Armed with swords and pistols, they cross no man's land, heedless of any danger, praying to sustain wounds for the Redeemer, which in turn will transform them into the very vengeance of the Lord. In front of the trench pilgrims are driven the ecclesiastic prisoners, either captured enemies of the true faith, forced to make a final act of contrition, or volunteer sinners seeking redemption. Each is strapped with high explosives, which are detonated once they reach the enemy lines. They dash across the killing grounds, hoping to either miraculously survive the blast and escape, or take as many followers of Lucifer with them as they can, depending on their convictions. The most puissant of the pilgrim processions will be accompanied by a shrine anchorite, a metal behemoth, some 12 feet tall, a living altar of war, almost completely immune to any damage. There is a bewildering number and variety of trench pilgrim processions. The penitents of pious revenge swear in the name of Saint Olga and use flamethrowers, burning grenades and incendiary ammunition to assail the heretics. There was a real-world Saint Olga that might be the same. The Britannica tells us Saint Olga was the princess who was the first recorded female ruler of the Rus, and the first member of the ruling family of Kievan Rus to adopt Christianity. She was canonized as the first Kievan saint of the Orthodox Church and is the patron saint of widows and converts. The pilgrims of the Iron Path follow Saint Rita of Cascia and go to war with hammers, mauls, maces and cudgels and hammer nails into their heads, just like any sane follower of the church would. The real Saint Ritus was called Elizabeth Ann Seton. Rita of Cascia was a wife, mother, widow, and member of a religious community. Her holiness was reflected in each phase of her life. After the loss of her husband and sons, she joined a nunnery. Over the years, her austerity, prayerfulness, and charity became legendary. When she developed wounds on her forehead, people quickly associated them with the wounds from the Christ's crown of thorns. She meditated frequently on Christ's passion. Her care for the sick nuns was especially loving. She also counselled lay people who came to her monastery Deified in 1626, Rita was not canonised until 1900. She has acquired the reputation, together with St. Jude, as a saint of impossible cases. Next, the Trench Pilgrims of the Procession of the Sacred Affliction are known for their zeal in close quarters combat, their armour decorated with icons and shields adorned with the depictions of the saints, which, despite appearances, can withstand machine gun bullets. The millstones they carry upon their backs are used to tie about the necks of sinners before drowning them in the mud and blood of no man's land. They spurn the use of the iron capirots, believing firmly that faith alone is enough to withstand the horrors of hell. This Trench Pilgrim procession traditionally sacrifices lambs before battle, anointing themselves in its blood to ward off the wrath of God. The pilgrims, they draw holy symbols with the blood of the sacrifice upon their bodies, clothing and armour, and then march to battle against singing hymns, in certain belief that the blood of the lamb shields them from any harm. Firm believers in traditional readings of the holy texts, they reject the new doctrines of the Metachrist by the Church. They steal communicants from other processions and force them to fight for them in penance for them being born from sin. From the night of fire and blood that laid low the great Moravian monastery of Velorad emerged a single monk of the Orthodox order of St. Methodius. Though the rest of the brotherhood perished in the catastrophe, slaughtered by a squadron of ruthless commandos, the sole survivor brought with him the Book of the Saints and his faith out of the ruin. With the loss of the workshops and monastic libraries of Velorad, it was believed that the secrets of the anchorite construction were lost, especially since the church no longer wished to pursue their construction due to advances in armour technology elsewhere. But this was in error. The monk named Akakios still knew the craft. Akakios fled to the Theocratia of Hellas and founded a new monastery on the slopes of the holy mountain Athos. Many monks lived in the monastic communities on the slopes of the mountain, and some were attracted to join their brother. Thus Akakios became the first war prophet of the order, and many lay members joined or became supporters, and eventually the foot soldiers of the well-equipped and disciplined war pilgrimage of St. Methodius were born. No other pilgrim processions can match the methodical and technical approach of the soldiers of the order. In their fortified monastery, the learned monks hoarded and protect the knowledge of the modified secret designs of St. Methodius. Their shrine anchorites are without peer and feature many modern weapons and adjustments which allow them to carry modern long-range weaponry. No other warband has such abundant access to anchorites or the variety of sophisticated weaponry and equipment that they do. Following the ancient Orthodox creed, the Pilgrims of St. Methodius reject many of the teachings and customs of other pilgrim processions. They consider the creation of the communicants as a dangerous heresy and condemn the use of martyrdom devices as an affront to God's commandment against suicide. As well as holding to other beliefs, many of the Trench Pilgrims view as an essential part of their crusade against the forces of Inferno. Bitter schisms and arguments with other sects sometimes erupt into violence, and the Church itself accuses the order of heterodoxy of clinging to the outdated Eastern Orthodox faith. However, due to their formidable fortress monasteries upon Mount Athos and their undeniable zeal on the battlefield, the princes of the Church turn a blind eye to the affairs of the followers of St. Methodius, as strong as they focus all their zeal on the seemingly impossible task of relieving the city of Trebizond. Here, according to the visions of the prophet Akakios, the unsullied faith is still practiced and the salvation of mankind will be achieved. To this end, the orders send one war pilgrimage after another to the front line. Not one has made it within sight of the fabled walls of Trebizond, but this only increases the zeal of the order and rouses them into every greater affront to reach the city of hell. So I really like the division we have there within the church and those little different beliefs that each of the Trench Pilgrims have. It both sets them apart and makes the church more interesting. They're not all united on one side. There are divisions within them, but they've set them aside in order to fight and face the forces of hell. And I do like that little wrinkle within the law there that we get. So, if you like this video on the Trench Crusade, you might also like this one. And if you like lots of Trench Pilgrim lore, if you like lots of Trench Crusade lore, then you may like my Trench Crusade playlist, which is also on the channel. So check out that and see if you enjoy it.